Photoshop has this pretty exciting feature that allows you to animate 3D objects over time. That is, you can change their position, their scale, their rotation. You can move the camera, change the lights, change the material options, change the cross-section. All these things can happen over time. And when you complete your work, you can export these animations as video files or still image sequences. Now, those exports can have transparent backgrounds, so you can take animated 3D objects and then place them in a video editing program and make it look for all the world like there's some real 3D stuff going on over some background that you might have inside your video editing project. Or you can create entire projects inside Photoshop with their own backgrounds, whatever you want. But in any event, it's a very exciting feature. There is a caveat, though. It's not fully implemented. It's in its early stages, so there are some limitations. But even with those limitations, it can do some things that After Effects can't do with 3D, so it's very exciting that this is available inside Photoshop. In this lesson, I'm going to introduce you to the concept so you can move things around in space, change their scale, their rotation, things like that. In the next lesson, we're going to have 3 projects that are pre-built that you can work in. And in the other 2 lessons in this chapter, you're going to work on material options and cameras and lights and cross-sections. So to get started, we'll make a new document, File, New. Go with this one here. What I want you to do is make some text, so go to the Type tool and type in some text. Let's extrude that text. So go to the 3D panel, 3D extrusion, create. Now there's no need to apply any colors or other materials to this. We're just going to work with this blank text like this. And now what you need to do is open up a timeline. Now you can do that in one of 2 ways. Now I've got my timeline tab right down there in the lower left-hand corner. I can just click on that and that'll open it up. If you don't see the tab like that, just go Window, Timeline. That'll open it up. There'll be a button in the middle like that says Create Video Timeline. If instead it says Create Frame Animation, open up that drop-down list and change it to Create Video Timeline, then click on it. And that creates this little timeline with your layer on the timeline. Now this is the video editing side of Photoshop, and it can be kind of complicated. We're going to limit our discussion today to something called keyframes. But if you want to learn more about video editing in Photoshop, I suggest you check out my Infinite Skills course on that. So if you want to track it down, you can go to my author page there. I want to show you how to work with keyframes. So to get to the keyframes, you need to open up this disclosure triangle for this layer called text, because that's the word that's there. You see it over here as well. So open up that disclosure triangle, and then you can lift this up a bit by hovering right there at that line and lift it up so you can see more. And you see all these little stopwatches. Those enable keyframes. The first 3 are really intended for video clips and still images and graphics, but these guys are the 3D ones down here. Go to Meshes and open that up. There's only one mesh, text layer mesh there. What I want to do is I want to turn on keyframes for that text layer. So I click on this little stopwatch and it turns it on, and it puts a keyframe there right at the beginning. Keyframes mark the beginning and the end of some change in properties. Properties could be position, scale, rotation, material options, other things. In this case, it's going to be position, scale, and rotation. What you do now is you go forward in time, like this, for example, about 3 seconds. We've got a 10-second clip here by default. I'm going to pull this thing down so you can see things better, like that. I'll scroll down there so you can see the keyframe. Now I'm going to move the text. So I have the selection tool here, click on it, click again, and just move it a little bit, like that. That automatically creates a keyframe because we're at a new time and we've changed the property. The property in this case being this position. If I go back to the beginning here, drag this to the beginning, there is our animation. Pretty neat. Let's go forward in time a little bit farther. Notice nothing happens now because there's nothing after this point, so it's holding what's going on there. I can pull it down now, for example. Maybe slide it to the right a bit. Now, this keyframe did not record that whole down right thing. It just recorded that I went from here to there. So I'll do that. I'll go over here now. You see how it goes from one place to another like that. If I want to go a little farther now in time, pull this thing down, slide it to the left a bit. Maybe change its scale now, get larger. Maybe rotate it a little bit. That'll record that new setting from there to there. If I want to navigate from one keyframe to the next, I use these little triangles here. Left goes to the left, obviously. Right goes to the right. And if I navigate right to a keyframe like that, I can change the properties of that keyframe just by taking this guy and moving it to a new place, rotating it there. And all those changes will be stored inside that keyframe. So now the animation will be different. Go up to the left now, and then down here. If I get to this keyframe, I want to end it differently. Navigate right to that keyframe. Let's say we'll end it like this instead. So now it'll go from that tipped thing down to this squared away thing. Now there are some features that you can use in other aspects of the video editing in Photoshop that you can't use in the 3D. For example, if you right-click here on one of the keyframes, you'll see hold interpolation. Anywhere else you could add a hold keyframe like that, and it would hold to the next thing. If I were to go to the next one like this, and change this position, for example, it would stay stuck in that position, then go to that one. But it doesn't work that way here. It looks like a hold keyframe, but doesn't behave like a hold keyframe. And another aspect over here is you go to this menu, and you go to keyframes, it says copy and paste, but you cannot copy and paste 3D layer keyframes, just so you know that it's there, but you can't really do it. So a couple of limitations. The whole thing doesn't really work, and the copy and paste doesn't really work, but otherwise you can manipulate the heck out of your 3D object. And we'll do some more position, scale, and rotation keyframing in the next lesson.